Hi everyone, happy Friday. I'm Izzy and I'm the co-founder here at Kind Community, and this is the Kind Community Show. We share the stories of founders, activists, and influencers promoting positivity and protection of our planet, discussing how collaboration can help make the sustainable attainable for all. On today's episode, we have Safia Qureshi, the founder and CEO of Club Zero, previously known as CupClub. Safia is an award-winning architect, designer, and educator. Born in London, she launched Studio Detail in 2015 to build projects with high social and environmental impact. She then incubated and launched Club Zero in 2018, a returnable and reusable packaging system for food and beverages. With the global problem around waste and single-use plastics, Safia has created a convenient solution to future-proofing our cities. In today's episode, we will learn about Safia's journey to becoming an influential force in developing innovative, easily adoptable solutions for those looking to live more sustainable lives. Thank you so much for joining us, Safia. It's so nice to have you on the show.
Hey, it's lovely to be here. I'm pleased we got some time to have a quick chat and beep around where you are.
Sorry about that, yes. It's a little busy around here, but hopefully that clears out. But Safia, I just want to talk to you a little bit more about your background, because it seems like you've often had relations to the environment, whether it was built or natural. So was beginning your career as an architect an introduction to sustainability in some way, or were you already involved in climate action and leading a planet-conscious lifestyle prior to becoming an architect?
Well, it's an interesting space because architecture is like very heavily regulated. So when you have to build or design any sort of project, you are constrained by specific requirements in terms of specifications, what you can and cannot specify. And a lot of the constraints come in around water consumption, energy consumption, embodied CO2, and then waste. So your priority is to ensure that you comply, and that compliance is a framework that you have to work within. So that from a work perspective, from a design perspective, you're very conscious, right? You're always trying to look for more innovative, more creative ways to do the same thing that is more sustainable. So that's definitely front of mind. And then naturally, I guess for me, I've always been oddly, conservationist from the ages of, I think, 4 or 5. I remember making these like little fishing lines out of found objects and then throwing them in these open streams to fish out plastic bags. Like, this is a
right.
memory.
Yeah.
And it's a shared memory because I used to try and get like all my cousins involved, and we would all I would make it a game, be like, this is so fun. Disgusting, actually, because we're fishing out bags from this open stream, and it's the water isn't clean, but there was really like an instinctive reason why I felt that thing just didn't belong there, and I kind of wanted to take it out and wanted to remove it and wanted to do something about it. So yeah, I guess maybe early days, that it's always been there.
Oh, that's so interesting. And then coming into CupClub, that has been, hugely successful. You've reached across Europe and North America. Many businesses and consumers have also now joined this movement. But can you give us a little bit of a rundown of how CupClub worked and the decision to now rebrand Club Zero, and what that process was like, and what the decision, why the decision to rebrand to Club Zero?
Sure. I mean, we grew big. This very short answer is you kind of get to a point where you feel like you've outgrown your clothes. That's kind of like how we decided. CupClub for us, we began the journey. This was in, we came up with the name in 2015, and at that point we were just looking at beverages. And we started trading in 2018, so we've actually been trading for 3 years. And then we got to a point where we had completed over 500,000 orders, and we were really itching to go into food. And CupClub itself as a name just didn't really resonate with consumers. Like, it's really hard to explain what you do if in your name is a specific product description. and it doesn't encompass everything you want to do. So we kept defining and explaining to people, oh, we're kind of exploring into food. We're now looking at X, Y, and Z. And what they felt was limiting was the fact that our name had the word cup in it. And so we decided, okay, well, let's put a great team together. Let's try and do something fantastic here and take the opportunity to the fact that we've got these amazing new partnerships coming up, which we'll announce very soon. Take the opportunity to rebrand. So I brought together this amazing team. So Gerard, who was ex-strategist at AMV BBDO in London, as well as Matthias, who is ex-design director at RGA. So these are two guys from ad agencies who, ironically, at that time, this was around September last year, when everyone was sort of like moving around. They were kind of in between agency and they're doing their own thing. And so I just brought the team together and we decided, let's rebrand. Let's, we have a big vision to, build one of the best sustainable consumption models out there. We've already done 500,000 orders in beverages. We want to transfer this knowledge into food, and we want the brand to really help open this up into consumers' minds and customers' minds so that there's no ambiguity in our big mission. So that was my brief to them. And then we just sort of took it from there. We started to riff, came up with lots of names. There are lots of names that didn't fit. I have a list of them, which are quite funny now that when you look back, you think, what?
What was I thinking?
Yeah, wacky. But you kind of have to go wide before you go narrow. Yeah. And so we landed on Club Zero. We felt very, very, very much pinned around two key things. We felt the word club for us was really important because it spelled community. And we know that anything that's powerful and exciting starts with people and ends with people. But it really is that sort of emotional attachment that we have to a mission, and it's the people that's really important. So we wanted to keep the word club. And then we wanted to be really obvious in what we do. We didn't want people to be ambiguous. Names should be obvious, like what you do, your name should be one thing. So where our mission is to remove all kinds of waste, and we work in zero waste. We're building an infrastructure that enables us to consume less. And so zero for us was a perfect word to put into the name itself. So we combined Club Zero, and we're now called Club Zero. So that's
fantastic.
That's how
so the essence of the brand, your values, your mission remains the same. It was more around actually how to create a new title that everyone can understand that also aligns with our vision and where we want to be, our go.
Exactly. Yeah,
cool.
Exactly.
And just for some users who may not have heard of Club Zero, can you explain a little bit more of how it works?
Sure. I mean, it's super simple. I selfishly, many years ago, felt really frustrated with the idea that we don't have options. We don't have any options other than landfill packaging when we consume. So you walk into your favorite cafe or restaurant, when you order takeout, you get given a whole menu of what kind of milks you want, or what kind of other syrups you might need. This is for beverages, if you want it hot, cold. And then on the other side, you've got a whole plethora of different types of foods, salads, etc. But the baseline is that everything is in landfill packaging. There is no optionality for me as a consumer when I walk in. No one asks, would you like a reusable with that? Like there is just no insertion of anything other than landfill packaging, which is insane because today we have so many options. And I felt selfishly, this needs to be an option. This needs to be something as convenient as everything else. And so what we provide essentially is a solution to that. We enable brands, food and beverage brands, restaurants, cafes to be able to stock our reusable packaging so that when customers walk in, they get the option. And when you say, I'd like to take a cappuccino or a latte, or actually I'm going to grab some salad to go or some food takeaway, you get the option for reusable against all of it. And then your meal, beverage, whatever it is prepared in that reusable packaging. You do have to pre-register to use any of our, obviously, to take away any of our products. So we do ask that you pre-register, you download the app. But all you have to do is show your ID. They will swipe it. You pay as normal, and you walk out with reusable packaging and all your food and beverage inside it. And when you're done, you return that. You have 7 days. You can return it to any Club Zero outlet. And if it's food delivery that you've ordered via, and we've partnered up with a great food delivery company, which we'll be announcing, but if it's food delivery, if it's food delivered to your home, you can even organize pickup from home. So you don't have to physically take it to a restaurant or cafe to drop off. You can just organize that to be collected by a courier. So as convenient as possible, we've basically set up a reuse system. That's what we've done.
That's fantastic, and also kind of removes the ownership on individuals to always remember to bring in their reusable cups to these cafes as well.
That's not the model, though. We don't.
No, it takes away that ownership of people.
Exactly.
Have to remember.
We recognize that's incredibly inconvenient for a lot of people because, well, the numbers speak for themselves. Like 2 to 5% of customers or consumers are bringing in their own reusable packaging. It's a really small amount.
It is.
And the rest is all landfill packaging. And so the brief is, how do we make it super convenient? What are we not doing that we need to consider? And then that was how we designed Club Zero.
That's really interesting. And there's also a piece of technology as well that around it to kind of view the circularity of where all of the products are in the supply chain. If I
yes.
Correct.
So
okay.
Exactly. Our philosophy also is to make sure that the system that we're building is built for the next 10 years, 20 years. We're not just designing or implementing a solution that might become redundant in the next 3 to 5 years, right? So that for us means that we need to track every single piece of packaging that we ever produce and know how many times it's used. And then know when to remove it because it's come to the end of its life cycle, recycle it, have that material flow coming back. So we create a lot of transparency around and understanding around products, right? So we measure it, and we want to make sure that we also give brands that capability of knowing where their packaging is. So it isn't sitting on a beach, or it's not sitting on the side of the road. It has a unique identifier in the form of a QR code. So we embed that into the QR code. Kind of like a barcode, but every single packaging item has its own unique barcode. That's basically it. So when you come and swipe your app, when they take your order, they'll also just scan any packaging that you're borrowing. And at that moment, that comes onto your usage stats. So you see what you have at any given point, and you can also track it. So it gives like validity to the system. It isn't just finger in the air saying, oh, well, we think this is a number of reusables that are being returned or reused, or we think this is a number that are, actually coming back, or we think this is a number that hasn't come to landfill. By implementing a full traceability on your own technology and your own system, you're able to actually validate and have real numbers and be able to stand behind them. So that's how we work.
That's very interesting. And is that something that you think can be easily adopted by other companies and other products?
Well, we've made it super simple. Scanning packaging or scanning anything is quite standard in any supermarket or any store. If you want to go and buy anything from crisps or just drink, they have to enter the value. They have to input something, and so we've made sure that that's super easy. For F&B brands, we also offer full customization and branding. So if they want to, over time, they can have their branding and their logo on it. But we also run the whole system for third-party brands and packaging. So it's not just for Club Zero's own branded goods. It's also for brands that we're currently working with, which we'll announce slowly, who have their own. They have their own packaging. They want to own their own packaging, and they just want us to run it within the system to make it super easy. That's what we also do.
Cool.
So it isn't just a limitation. It's basically saying to a lot of the food and beverage restaurants and cafes that we have a line of packaging if you want to use it, because a lot of them don't have the capacity or the capex availability to just go and purchase like a big imagery.
Right.
And so we make sure that it's super easy and accessible for the smaller ones. But the medium and the big players want to obviously have something that's incredibly unique and specific to them, and we run the system in the same way.
Oh, that's very interesting. And you've been quoted saying that your ambition is to create the first zero waste destination in London, which is quite exciting. And I believe you started in King's Cross. So can you tell us a bit more about that project and how have people been responding to it?
Sure, amazing. So, I mean, we've had this in the works for a long time. So like anything of this sort of scale, it takes a while, and we've got some amazing growth partners, which we'll be announcing very soon, which include food and beverage brands. So these are brands that are part of the King's Cross area. Includes also a major food delivery platform, as well as our partnership with some amazing facilitators and operators, which we'll be announcing. I know I'm being very
ambiguous,
ambiguous about it all, because the official news is going to come out, and we've got some Guardian articles that will be coming out shortly, so you'll all hear about it. But yeah, it makes essentially a very physical place in London that Londoners love, a destination where they have the option to walk in and be offered reusable packaging, food and beverage. That's amazing. Like that's ultimately, we're going to create a neighborhood where you can go to and you can get that experience, whether you live there and you can get that experience. As opposed to just another press release or, this is coming. We wanted to make it very real, and we wanted people to participate. So yeah, you can definitely add yourself to the list. We are pre-registering. So if you want to be the first to use it, sign up. You just go to clubzero.co and add yourself to our mailing list, and you'll hear the first news. So yeah,
that's fantastic.
It's the best way to get involved.
I was really hoping to say you've heard it here first, but I think we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yes, you have. You did hear it first. So cool. Well, you hear about the pre-register bit first. So
no, awesome. We'll have to register right after this. I'm really looking forward to really living that experience. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. I think I kind of want to move away from, I guess, all the talk and more towards the action, and give people something tangible, and also selfishly be able to, feel like, okay, we worked towards something very tangible, and now there is a place in London where you can go and you can enjoy this, and then we'll grow. There's a huge growth plan, and there are different brands that are coming in at different stages that are part of that journey, which is super fun.
Yeah.
So it's not just King's Cross, but it's the beginning of a big journey. So
absolutely. And you did touch on accessibility beforehand, but as you know, consumers wishing to kind of adopt sustainable practices are often met with the barriers of sometimes higher price tags for ethical products, or sometimes general inaccessibility. So transitioning to a carbon neutral, waste-free life is, I think, getting easier, but the air of it being still privilege is very apparent. So how do you think product designers and fellow founders tackle this issue? And do you think that it starts in the boardroom with CEOs and founders prioritizing ethical standards before profit?
Well, we have, I guess ours is a bit different in the sense that our output is zero waste. So we don't have to implement a sustainable practice. It is by virtue of everything that we've built and designed, it is removing waste from the environment and from being generated. So, and we've studied it. We are the gold standard. So we've published our life cycle assessments globally. It's been picked up by the UN. It's been picked up by Closed Loop, by Greenpeace. It's in their white papers. It's in their policy documents. And we did that because we wanted to be open. We wanted to be the leaders in this. And the full life cycle assessment revealed basically that we use only half the amount of carbon to all of our single-use alternatives, the incumbent, which is great. So That was helpful for us because I guess, and we want to get better. So we will be updating that. It's not like sort of like a fixed in sand document. There's going to be updates to that as we evolve, because we're optimizing as we go along. We've already, optimized the product. We use less material. We've expanded the life cycle. We've done an awful lot of different things around it to make sure that it has less impact. So that's from the, from if you're looking at design and you're implementing, you're thinking about ways to do that with all of these sort of, practices and principles in mind.
Right. I'm sorry, is there an echo on your side?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So that's probably the first and most important thing that I would highlight, is to always measure and make sure that you are designing with that in mind. You're not using, I guess, any of this sort of life cycle assessments is meant to inform your design process. It's not meant to be a sort of a line in the sand. It shouldn't be just done retrospectively. It should be done way earlier on, so you're aware of what your impact is as you go through it. And then with regards to cost, I mean, this is really important. So when we look at our business model, we've designed a way where we don't take deposits. So we don't actually transact with the consumer. We say to the consumer, this is a free system for you to use. You can use it anytime. What we ask is that these items are borrowed for a very defined period of time, just 7 days, and that all of them are returned within that time. And in the event that they're not, we'll assume that you want to keep them and then charge them for you. So it's retrospective, it's not upfront. And that means that anyone can use the system. It doesn't say you have to have enough, deposit upfront for every single item, and hence your bill might look incredibly inflated. We don't say that, we don't do that. Instead, we put it on the onus on you. This is a system. You borrow items, so you need to return them. So it's incredibly inclusive in that way. We make sure that we charge for the product itself if it's not returned. We don't have exorbitant fees. And the whole point is to make this super convenient. It isn't to penalize people. It's to make sure that we transition them from using landfill through to being really comfortable. And owning a system and knowing how it works and having the confidence to know, okay, if I return these things, that's not a problem. And so, yeah, we're a bit different to maybe some of the other reuse models who do charge up front and then, it's just
right. But it's really promoting that behavioral change as well, isn't it?
Mindset. Yeah, it's a mindset shift. I mean, it's not that much of a behavior change in so that our networks, hence, trust. It's the same as like trying to find a bin. I mean, there isn't a lot of behavior change in the difference between throwing something in a bin and putting it back into one of our yellow boxes. Isn't much of a behavior change. It's more of just a mindset. It's just like, oh, okay, I don't need to opt into something that is only going to be used for 20 seconds. I have better products I can use because our packaging is, by virtue of just being really fantastically designed and being, a physical product as opposed to something you can crumple and like chuck out, it's a better experience. Like it gives you a much more superior experience for your food and beverage. It keeps it hotter for longer. It's not the same. And so it's just giving people that option and then making it super easy for them to say, yeah, sure, this is so cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. And I did want to ask you, because you have been a judge, a packaging design judge at the D&AD on the topic of inspiring resourceful innovation. How was your experience as being a judge, and what new forms of sustainable packaging did you see? What new clean tech materials are being used most commonly?
It's a great question. So I was really quite, it's an honorable invitation. I loved it. It was an amazing setup. The other judges were really quite, I guess, complimentary because we were a mixture of folks from, traditional advertising where they would sit with a really big brand such as, Burger King and McDonald's and say, okay, what's your new rebrand and how are we going to evolve that onto your packaging? So there were those sort of that particular profile. Then you had more sort of small independents. These are like independent packaging designers or designers that are looking at ways to deliver something that's maybe on a smaller scale. And then you had more outfield or left field, which would be me, which is kind of anti-packaging.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we not make any packaging?
Any at all? Yeah.
How do we do it in a way where it has absolutely perpetual use throughout its life cycle? Like, it's not going to go in the bin. So it was fascinating because you can imagine like 98% of what we were looking at was in single-use landfill packaging. 98%.
Yeah.
And 2% were not. So that was an interesting, it's an interesting thing to arrive at. You're sort of, you're like disqualifying everyone already out the gate. You're like, well, this doesn't work because this is not even recyclable. So my views were, it was really interesting because we all came to this realization. It was a bit of like an oh shit moment because you sort of realize we've got a lot to do. We've got a long way to go. The fact that most of the industry, and there's specific categories, of course. So there's, limited edition, and then a lot of, it can be split into numerous ways, but you've got your traditional sort of whiskeys and beverages, et cetera, which traditionally are in glass. And so that area is less concerning. Then you move into your pre-packaged goods, which are more concerning because they're flexible films or they're not monomaterials, and they typically sometimes, and we were testing these out. We were actually like sort of trying to tear them apart and trying to physically, see what the lamination was. Like, is there a plastic lamination on this paper that would make it unrecyclable? Like, yes, actually. Wow. So that would qualify it. And so the lens of what we were applying was quite fresh, and this was very well received by DNAD, which is on a path for net zero by 2030. They want to disqualify anything that isn't considering this ambition. So, or veer it towards something that matches up more succinctly with their values, which is how do we get to net zero by 2030 and then work backwards from there. So we have to sort of start pushing in that direction. And so, the judging criteria is framed in a way where it's set up in principle by DNAD, and then we have to respond. And there's like 370 entries. It's quite. It was a long, laborious task. It took a couple of days to get over, and there were lots of heated debates, and it's weighing out. As a designer, you want to produce beautiful things into the world, but then ultimately part of your design needs to also factor in the end of life recyclability. Like what is going to happen to this thing after it's used. You can't control how long it's used for. Sometimes it's 20 seconds, sometimes it'll be 2 months. That's not the deciding factor. The fact is it will be used by a certain time, whatever that time is, and then what happens to it.
Then what happens,
and who's going to be able to deal with it. If it's, you have to take it to a specific recycling plant, and then that plant can probably recycle it. The likelihood of that is, incredibly low. It's sort of like 0.001% of people will physically read that logo, which is recycling, and say, oh, film packaging, let me send this to this company here and post it. That isn't mass market. So that's not even considered a design consideration. That's actually a lack of thought. So we disqualified or marked a lot of brands down for the fact that they didn't even go through this thought process. And so it'll be interesting. Every year this is going to, just become more and more, I guess, mandated or, just normal to expect. But it was really fun. It was nice to see just the rigor and the quality of work submitted was so high. And these are global entries. This is from everywhere.
Wow.
From like Japan all the way to West Coast US. So, it's just amazing to see some and really big names in there as well. but then also really small, early emerging brands and studios.
Oh, that's so interesting. And I'm sure just like the creativity that you can get from, seeing all these new innovations and designs would just
Exactly,
be.
in a good sense. I mean, the ones that I really loved, I can talk about this because they publish the winners, etc. The ones that I really liked were the refillable ones. So I'm really excited about where refillables are going to go, what's going to
Yeah.
happen with them. And in the beauty industry, there's Fenty submitted in their application. So this is Rihanna's packaging.
Yes.
Beauty. And yeah, I put a high commendation on that, partly because it was really considering how do I, the pump action of the moisturizing packaging, and then how you can remove and insert new cartridges. Those elements of design are all are in there, and it's intentional. And so that reduces the amount of overall packaging that you're using to refill versus buying a completely new one. So those types of products got me very excited because I just felt like this is where we need to be. This is what I would like to see more of.
Of course, I think sometimes we also don't appreciate the amount of detail that goes into these products. It's just, yeah, no doubt. Before our quick fire round, can you just give us a little bit more insight on what's next for Club Zero?
Sure.
There's big ambitions.
We're launching in King's Cross. Pre-register. Just sign up now at clubzero.co. And we'll send you the details on the exact brands, where to find them, the dates, etc. We're on a mission to make Club Zero the sort of household name when it comes to reusable packaging to go. So if you have any specific desires, if you have brands that you're like, these guys need to be speaking to us, send them to us. We'd love to hear from them. And we'll try and make sure we can add them to the networking system as quickly as possible. But yeah, if you're a Londoner, this is like your front row. So get involved. And then, yes, we have ambitions for next year, and the year after we'll be growing. So there'll be a lot of other activities in other cities globally. So we have a newsletter sign up. You can put your city name in there. So if you do that, we can tag you by city, and then we can communicate to you when you'll be in your specific city as well.
Oh, that's really exciting. Looking forward to seeing the journey. And now for a quick fire round.
Go on.
How do you define sustainability?
Mindset.
That was
quick fire as in just one word? Or
yeah, it could be one word. I like that. It's a different way of approaching it, but I like it. Short.
It's a mindset. It's just a mindset. It's like, your choices are continuous. So it's a mindset. How you buy, the decisions you make. Do you, order in for the 50th time? Do you get your bag and go to the supermarket? It's a mindset.
Love that. What are you most hopeful for?
I'm most hopeful that we can come together, that people can sort of figure out plans that will evolve us quickly so that we can, that collaboration is, I think, what will change things. It's the fact that we're not all thinking about ourselves all the time, that we're thinking collectively, that we're thinking about ourselves in the context of our neighborhoods, in the context of our cities, in the context of our streets. We're bringing people together. So that's what I'm hopeful for, a world where we're converging, we're not diverging. That's what I'm hoping for.
Great. And who inspires you?
Oh my God, so many people. Oh gosh, on what? In what? So many. I mean, from a female founder perspective, an architect perspective, I've always loved Zaha Hadid. Always. She's always been a pioneer and at the forefront of everything she's ever done. She's just she's always set the scene and set the tone. Before computational design, she had art she had this amazing body of work that looked like it had been done in a computer, but it was all hand drawn and painted. And I think it's fantastic and inspiring to see that another woman of color did that and put that out there and is talked about and is such a big part of our DNA. in education as well. But then if you look in, I always say I work with tech, I don't work in tech. I think that's a really important distinction. So tech for me is an enabler. I'm always an architect and a creative first, and I use tech to really enable things that I want to see. So people who inspire me are probably some of the folks that I've brought onto my team, who inspire me every day for just being fantastic and so smart. And just so wonderful to work with. Like it's really fun. It's really fun to work with them, watch them, hear them, listen to them. And this is across the team. This is our advisor. This is our immediate team. Like that for me is super inspiring.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That collaboration, just being able to bounce ideas off and just having great people around you is really key. Can you say the name of the first, when you said the...
Oh, Zaha Hadid.
Zaha Hadid. I'm gonna have to look into her.
Yeah, she's quite a phenomenal architect and designer. You would have definitely seen a couple of projects. Not so many in London. There is the in Hyde Park. There's a Sackler Gallery extension, which is a restaurant that she did. But she's done some huge, immense projects across the world. I can send you some details.
Cool. And where will you be in 10 years' time?
I'd like to say in 10 years' time, I will probably have IPO'd and I would be building a house in Cape Town.
Oh, cool. I've never been to Cape Town, but I hear it's absolutely stunning.
It's amazing. It's so one of my team members is also sometimes based out there. So I've been out there quite a lot of times. I was invited also to speak at Design Indaba, which is their annual creative design festival. That's how I actually discovered it. It's amazing. And yeah, so the idea is that at some point in the next 10 years, I'll be building a little house out there. That's the plan.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much, Safia, for joining us today on the Kind Community Show. It was such a pleasure. Yeah, it was a pleasure speaking to you. And can you just remind us one more time where we can sign up?
To get CupZero.co.
CupZero.co.
CupZero.co and add yourself to the newsletter. And if you're in London, just put in London as your city, and we will send you details. Pre-register, just sign up, and you will be the first to know when we go live.
Fantastic. We'll share that on our website as well. So thank you again for joining us. And we'll see you soon.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed my conversation with Safia today, please do share, like, and subscribe for more conversations. We go live every Friday and very much look forward to having you join us next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.